Welcome to Northwest Kansas, and I'm actually starting the day here in Oberlin, Kansas. I stayed the night here last night. I stayed in a really cool old hotel. Used to be a bank, so it was the state bank from 1886 to 1894, and then they turned it into the courthouse and found an old picture of the courthouse when it said that on it. And in the 1920s or 1930s, they built another courthouse, and that building became something else. And now it's a hotel, and it's pretty cool. You know, it's certainly one of those historic places you find in little towns like Oberlin, Kansas from time to time. I titled this video Forgotten Kansas because I feel like the northwest corner of Kansas is very overlooked. And you know, a lot of the population is like in the northeast corner with Kansas City, and then maybe south central with Wichita, and even in the western part of the state, you have Dodge City, you have Garden City, which are bigger, or smaller cities, bigger towns, and people go out and visit those places. And I feel like Northwest Kansas is certainly a place that's often forgotten, and that's the theme of the video today. So we're going to go down basically Highway 36, but we're going to go north and south a little bit. We're going to find some ghost towns and some unincorporated communities. There are 3 county seats along the way. And often that's about the only place that has significant population. When I say significant, I mean like 1,000 people. And like Oberlin is one of those places. And it's nice. I'm here on a weekday, so there's work going on. There's a bobcat over here behind me that's certainly getting some work done as I'm trying to talk. So you're going to find these county seats, and we're going to we'll tell you a little bit about those county seats, but I like to save maybe those towns for a bigger video to talk a little bit more about the history of them. But so we'll cruise through the county seats or the towns that have a little bit more population and focus on lots of small dots on the map that are either hardly any community left or there maybe nothing left anymore. And we'll try to figure out what happened to those places. And we'll go from here all the way over to the Colorado border and maybe even see some very scenic things along the way. The only other time I was here, kind of in this area doing a video, I went to like Monument Rocks and some of those places. So you get over here, it doesn't feel like Kansas anymore. It feels like more like Colorado. And the altitude is higher. It's like 3,000 to 4,000 feet. Now here, people would never think that of Kansas. But that's why we're out here showing you all. And starting, like I said, here in Oberlin, they had this fantastic downtown. It's just lined with red brick and old buildings. Certainly that the hotel / bank / courthouse is the star kind of on the street. Really enjoyable place to stay. And so let's talk a little bit about Oberlin, and we'll get heading down the road. We are in Decatur County, and Oberlin is the county seat of Decatur County. It was platted in 1878 and named after the town of Oberlin, Ohio. And the post office was established also in 1878, and the town was officially incorporated in 1885. When you look at the population, you can see how it steadily grew through the years. The highest it was in 1980 at 2387. Definitely has dropped off a little bit since then, down to 1644. The number 1 pick in the 1937 NFL draft was named Sam Francis, and he was from Oberlin High School. He also got 4th in the 1936 Olympic shot put. There's Oberlin on the map. We're gonna head west and see what the dot of Midway is, and then we'll go check out Herndon. This is Midway on our map, and there's really nothing here. It's the intersection of 36. We were coming from Oberlin that way. There's a little town called Herndon that goes up that way. The railroad was north of here, so it went through Herndon. Didn't come this way along 36. But it's probably just a dot on the map as a intersection point here with these more main roads. There's a couple older buildings over that way. They don't look like much. Might have been some convenience stores here or something. Could have been. Who knows? Been a good spot for it. Kind of the two towns intersecting on the main roads here. So, but yeah, nothing at Midway. No post office. There was no real town to speak of. I saw on my Google Maps there may be a cemetery down this way. So let's go check that out. Midway is down that way about a mile and down the dirt road here, and come over to the Swedish Lutheran Cemetery. And it's always interesting to, when you see things like that, to realize where did some of the old settlers come from. And that's a pretty good clue. So obviously always was a rural area out here. It's really pretty beautiful. It's hilly. See some different things like that. I think we're going to see more hills as we go. And but a small cemetery, like some newer headstones, some older ones back in the back. Yeah, so it's always good to check that out and see where people might be from that started this back in the day. So we saw that little sign up there for Herndon. So let's go up and see where the railroad came through. We'll go up to Herndon. And once we got to Midway, we were actually in Rawlins County, so we're in the next county to the west. So this is Herndon. It was originally called Pesth, P-E-S-T-H, is named after Pest, Hungary, which later merged to become Budapest. And under the latter name was laid out in 1878, had a post office named that 1879 to 1880. They renamed Herndon in 1880 in honor of William Herndon, a law partner of Abraham Lincoln. They incorporated in 1906. The town became a shipping and trading center for wheat, livestock, and other farm products. The school consolidated in 2004 with nearby Atwood, which we'll see coming up. Rudolph Wendelin was from Herndon, and he was the Forest Service artist behind the design of Smokey Bear. Population peaked in 1940 at 443, and as you can see, it's gone down every census since 1960. 119 is the lowest it's ever been. This is what you see in little towns you just don't see very often. And so this was obviously a stadium. I don't know if it probably went higher, but this is still what's left over. And right here on the side it says National Youth Administration Work Project 1940, so the WPA. And this was, you know, football or baseball or probably maybe a combination of both. Look at this. This is so cool. There's an old scoreboard out there. But everywhere else, well, not everywhere else, but a lot of places, this would have been torn down long ago. And because there's not a school playing here anymore, it's just left to decay. But man, this is awesome. I'm guessing there was probably a football field maybe right here. Obviously a baseball field could have been right here as well. So awesome. Take some back roads over to Liddell and then over to the county seat of Atwood. We followed that railroad line, that abandoned railroad line here to Ludell, and we found some fantastic stuff. So we're in the downtown area, and look at that old bank, 1920. And there's a feed store next to it. I mean, this had to have been the downtown area. I found a school over the way that would have been built in the 1930s, and a beautifully restored school over there, and a couple other buildings. So there is a community here. There's probably, I'm guessing, 20 or 30 people that live around here. It's like 3 or 4 streets, and with the drone shot you can kind of see what it looks like. But this is a community that went back into the 1870s, and it had about 4 different names before they settled on Ludell, and the railroad came through in 1889, that one that is no longer existing. And so they got a couple hundred people here in the early 1900s. Then, you could see that Highway 36 was built, and that would, bypass Herndon, bypass this town as well. So as people started driving that road a little bit more than being on the railroad, these towns suffered. And then the railroad eventually closed, and there's not much left to do here in Liddell, but really great to see these old buildings. And this is Atwood, the county seat of Rawlins County. So in 1875, T.A. Andrews and J.M. Matheny traveled to Rawlins County and started a town site. The city of Atwood was actually with 2 T's, A-T-T-W-O-O-D, was named after Matheny's 14-year-old son who accompanied his father on the journey. The post office was actually Atwood with 2 T's from 1879 to 1881. The post office requested permission to drop 1 T, thus becoming Atwood, A-T-W-O-O-D, in 1881, and that's when it became the county seat. So in terms of the population, like these other towns, you can see where it peaked there in 1960 and then has dropped off, but it did actually go up in 2020 from 1194 up to 1290. from Atwood, we're going to go check out Blakeman, just a little bit north of 36, before we get back on 36. And there's two communities real close to each other, Greshampton and Beardsley. Then we'll see if there's anything up in Gladstone. Pulled over here in Blakeman. You can see the remnants of the railroad. This is really important to the story of Blakeman. Not much here left. Actually, there's an old school that is I think it's a shooting club, a shooting range. So it's a members only. And there's maybe one or two other older buildings, not much, and then a couple houses. So probably less than 10 people live here anymore. But the railroad here, this is really important because it's telling you about Atwood, how it became the county seat, and it was a little bit of a process for it to be the county seat. And when it was temporary county seat, there was a group of people that wanted to put the county seat here. And so the railroad came through here, and they actually moved some buildings to Blakeman here from Atwood. And then they petitioned to have another election, and they needed a bunch of signatures, and there was some debate on, I think, how the signatures came about, which isn't uncommon back in the day, and went all the way to the Kansas Supreme Court, and it was denied. So that was kind of, you could say, the end of Blakeman trying to become the county seat. And they had about 100 people here in the early 1900s, and then it's faded like other towns because Highway 36 bypassed it here. So you can see we're at the railroad, see where the school is over there. So everything's real close here. A cool history, what could have been in Blakeman. So we went over that little, I guess you call it a bridge right there. And right here was a community called Greshampton. And obviously there's nothing here anymore. There's maybe a ranch there, no trespassing down that little road. And you can see why they probably started a community here, because there's some water there or something, probably like that, down in the valley. But then they moved about a mile up the hill down this way. And that's because the railroad went that way. So let's go and see where the post office moved next. And down the road here is where the post office moved to. This is Beardsley. It's basically a ghost town. I think that's old school right there. So the post office moved here in 1889, and it was open until 1899. Then they closed it for 7 years, reopened it in 1906, and then they closed again in 1955. And so just kind of like a lot of these towns out here on the back roads, it just kind of got bypassed. Unusual claim to fame, in 1929, the Beardsley meteorite fell near the community. Fragments of the meteorite were recovered and eventually studied by scientists at several museums and universities. It's one of the better known documented meteorite falls in Kansas. And on my map, it says Gladstone right here. And I didn't really expect to find much of anything. It said Post Office 1885 to 1903. There was one photo, though I did dig up, of a signboard on the railroad. So that's interesting. I don't know where the railroad would have been, but apparently there was a railroad that would have gone through here somewhere. There is way over there. It's like a elevator of some kind. So maybe I'll go down there and see if that could have been where it's at. Would have made sense. And maybe right here was a church or a school or something like that. That just looks like somebody's house that's long been abandoned. Well, I'm not convinced this was a railroad stop, but it's an interesting looking building. Looks like it's been either built more recently or refurbished, but I like it. I don't know, maybe somebody knows about Gladstone. Could put it in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching part 1 of our trip through Northwest Kansas. I'll have the second and final part coming out in 2 weeks. Until then, I will see you down a back road. Now that you made it to the end of that video, let me tell you about some of the extras on the channel. One of the things you can do is become a member. There are 3 levels of support. There's supporter, producer, and executive producer levels. All 3 have different levels of fun incentives and perks. If you haven't done so, please check out travelwiththewiseguy.com. There are lots of extras on there to explore. One of them is merchandise. We have Travel with the Wise Guy coffee mugs, Death Go Round t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and all sorts of fun things to show your support of this channel. Also on the website is a custom Google map. I've dropped pins in every place I've visited and linked the episode to each location. This seems to be a very popular feature for many of you. Also, sign up for my free newsletter that goes out about once a month. There are all sorts of links and tidbits on this page, old videos, podcasts, and just about everything I can think of I throw on the website. For all that information and more, go to travelwiththewiseguy.com. And now, the reason you're probably here, the outtakes. Unfortunately, the museum in Oberlin is closed today. Very unfortunate. So close. Welcome to Herndon. Welcome to Death Go Round in Pride Park. Tell you what, Herndon has an awesome little town here. I love it. Oh wow, this is amazing. Well, a little rickety, but not much, but that spins really well. So that would work if you're wanting to play on it for sure. We're gonna give that a 7.6. Such a fantastic school in Ludell. Of course, every old town with an old school has a Death Go Round. So that last town, Herndon, I probably shortchanged a little bit. It spins so well with the 7.6. Maybe it should have been a 7.8. Oh, I love that. That's a good idea. It's a good spinner. A little wobbly, but not much. But I'm gonna give it a bonus for that never grow up advice. So we're gonna give that a 7.9.